Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Praise Yahweh. Hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Praise Yahweh. Praise Yahweh. I will call upon Yahweh, who is worthy to be praised. So shall I be saved from mine enemies. Rise up, O Yahweh. Let thine enemies be scattered. Let them that hate thee flee from before thee. Hallelujah. 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 Praise Yahweh. Hallelujah. I'd like to welcome everyone to Qodeshnation and to our Shabbat class. Brothers and sisters, what I'm going to be talking about today is false favor. False favor. Praise Yah. Now, when we talk about the subject of favor, and I'm going to be speaking of favor as it relates to the nation of Yashraal, our nation of people. Praise Yah. That the biggest difference between, let's just say, my generation. Okay, my generation is the post-baby boom generation. And then after my generation, you have what's called Generation X. Praise Yah. But when I say the post-baby boom generation, from the 1970s on out, up to this time, praise Yahuwah. And if we compare these times to pre-1970, the biggest difference between those two periods of time, brothers and sisters, is the level of favor that our people have been shown in those two periods. Now, what I mean by that is, of course, you look pre-1970, and this is where you have the civil rights movement in full swing. You have the Jim Crow laws, the black codes, in the South. You have hard discrimination. You have the KKK in full strength during this time. Praise Yah. You have burnings. You have lynchings. And just all kind of terrible things. And of course, before all that, we had slavery. So we don't even need to go into all of the specific atrocities of slavery. But when you sum up American history pre-1970, that we were not shown a lot of favor during that time. We really weren't. But if you look at post-1970 up to this time, relatively speaking, we have been shown much favor, relatively speaking. Not saying it's been perfect, praise Yah, but when you compare it to the burnings and the lynchings, and granted, I mean, some of that stuff still is going on, but not to the magnitude that it went on in the past when stuff like that wasn't even prosecuted. Praise Yah, people got away with stuff like that a lot easier in time past, but we've been shown more favor. But what I want to bring out in this lesson, brothers and sisters, is that we're not to get too excited about this favor that we have been shown as a nation of people post-1970, this relative favor that we have been shown, this favor relative to how things were pre-1970. We're not to get too excited, and we're not to get too overconfident about that, because what you'll see from the scriptures is that this is false favor. False favor. Praise Yahuwah, and you're going to see what I mean as we get into this. Now, I want to open this up with Yirmiyahu, Jeremiah chapter 16. Jeremiah chapter 16. We're going to start at the top. It says, "And the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, Do not take a wife, nor have sons or daughters in this place. For thus said Yahuwah concerning the sons and daughters who are born in this place, and concerning their mothers who bear them, and their fathers who bring them forth in this land. They shall die deaths from diseases. They shall not be lamented, nor be buried, but be like dung on the face of the earth, and be consumed by sword and by scarcity of food. Their corpses shall be meat for the birds of the Shamayim and for the beasts of the earth. For thus said Yahuwah, Do not enter the house of mourning, neither go to lament or mourn for them, for I have withdrawn my peace from this people, declares Yahuwah, even the kindness and the compassions. Both great and small shall die in this land. They shall not be buried, and no one shall lament for them, or cut themselves, or make themselves bald for them. Neither shall they break bread in mourning for them to comfort them for the dead, nor give them the cup of comfort to drink for their father or their mother. Do not enter the house of feasting to sit with them and to eat and drink. For thus said Yahuwah of hosts, the Elohim of Yashra'al, See before your eyes and in your days, I am making the voice of rejoicing and the voice of gladness and the voice of the bridegroom and the voice of the bride to cease in this place. And it shall be when you declare to this people all these words, and they shall say to you, Why has Yahuwah proclaimed this great evil against us? And what is our wickedness? And what is our sin that we have committed against Yahuwah our Elohim? Then you shall say to them, Because your fathers have forsaken me, and declared, because your fathers have forsaken me, declares Yahuwah, and have walked after other mighty ones, and served them, and bowed themselves to them, and have forsaken me, and did not guard my Torah, and you have done more evil than your fathers. For look, each one walks according to the stubbornness of his own evil heart, without listening to me. So I shall throw you out of this land into a land that you do not know, neither you nor your fathers, and there you shall serve other mighty ones day and night, where I show you no favor. Praise Yahuwah. So we'll stop there. In fact, no, we won't stop there. I want to include the next two verses because of this. Verses 1 through 13, the context of this is that this is when they were right on the brink of going into the Babylonian captivity, our forefathers. Praise Yah. And he was speaking specifically here about Babylon being cast out of their land into a land where they would serve other mighty ones day and night, where they would be shown no favor. But I believe the next two verses are significant, and I'm going to show you why. Verses 14 and 15 says, Therefore see, the days are coming, declares Yahuwah, when it is no longer said, Yahuwah lives who brought up the children of Yashra'al out of the land of Mitzrayim, but Yahuwah lives who brought up the children of Yashra'al from the land of the north, and from all the lands where he had driven them, for I shall bring them back into their land I gave to their fathers. So, what I want you to recognize from this passage is that he's talking about the Babylonian captivity, and then he skips to the last days, where it talks about it's not going to be said anymore, Yahuwah who brought us up from Mitzrayim, but who brought us from the lands of the north and from all lands. This is talking about the end time. This is talking about the final restoration. He said, For I shall bring them back into their land that I gave to their fathers. This bringing back is not talking about the bringing back that took place right after the Babylonian captivity. This is talking about the final restoration. And so when we see it skipping that span of time, brothers and sisters, then what that tells us, and I'm going to confirm this because we're going to go to Devarim 28 after this, but what that tells us is that when Yah cast our forefathers into Babylon, where they served other mighty ones and they were shown no favor, that it didn't just stop there in the Babylonian captivity. And I'm going to show you why. Turn to Devarim 28. Deuteronomy 28. Deuteronomy 28, and we're going to start in verse 45. It reads, "And all these curses shall come upon you, and they shall pursue and overtake you until you are destroyed, because you did not obey the voice of Yahuwah your Elohim to guard his commands and his laws which he commanded you. And they shall be upon you for a sign and for a wonder, and on your seed forever, because you did not serve Yahuwah your Elohim of joy and gladness of heart for all the plenty. You shall serve your enemies whom Yahuwah sends against you in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in need of all, and he shall put a yoke of iron on your neck until he has destroyed you. Yahuwah brings a nation against you from afar, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flies, a nation whose language you shall not understand, a fierce-looking nation which shows no regard for the elderly, nor show favor to the young." Now, let me stop there. Praise Yahuwah. So, now the context even of what I just read you was the Babylonian captivity. However, what I read at the first was, because this is a curse now, this is one of the curses of Devarim 28, how these curses would perpetuate themselves throughout time. In other words, it wasn't going to be just limited to the Assyrian, Babylonian, and Roman captivities. That these things would be perpetual until the time of restoration. And so what that tells us, brothers and sisters, is that even after the Assyrian, Babylonian, and Roman captivities, that we would continue to be thrust into other lands, serve their mighty ones, and be in a place where we would be shown no favor. And we see how that even the curse we mentioned in Devarim 28 about not regarding the elderly and not showing favor to the young. And we see how, yes, it was like that in the Babylonian captivity, but look at how that's perpetuated itself here in the United States of America. Look at how during slave days, they didn't care if somebody was elderly. They didn't show them proper respect. They didn't have any regard for age. That you would see a servant, a gray-headed Hebrew man coming to serve the massa. Massa would be about 30 years old. "Hey, boy! Come here, boy! Pour my cup here, boy!" Here this 70-year-old man, gray-headed, Hebrew now, coming pouring his drink like that. Yes, a massa. No regard for the elderly, showing no favor to the young. Tearing little children from their mama's breasts to separate families in slave days. And then look at our day and time today. Praise Yah. Look at how we look at the school to prison pipeline taking place in the inner cities, where in a subtle way that young Hebrews, especially young Hebrew boys, are being prepared while they're in school, being prepared for prison, because that's where they want to put them. And so we see that instead of the young being taken care of and educated, and we see how they're being done like that. We see these young people, especially young Hebrews, being tried for adult crimes and thrown in prison. And so we see how that this disregard for the elderly and showing no favor to the young has perpetuated itself even up to today. Just what it's talking about. Praise Yahuwah. So, that being the case, if we look at what was said in Yirmiyahu 16 about being thrust into another land where day and night we're serving their mighty ones, and that's exactly what's going on here. The Hebrew people were serving the mighty ones of the Gentiles day and night, and it's a land wherein we would be shown no favor. Now, of course, that was demonstrated pre-1970, praise Yahuwah, but something took place that have made things different. post-1970. In other words, after 1970. See, something took place. Now, in my opinion, I believe that what has taken place has something to do with the breaking of the seal that brought forth the white horse, the rider on the white horse. Praise Yah. Because, see, for our people, and, we wonder why it's so hard to get this Israelite truth across, so hard to, number one, to show people who they are. But it's even harder because it's hard to show people who they are, especially people that are deeply churched like that. Now, there are people that aren't so deeply churched, and it's easier to show them who we are because they're interested in things like that. They're interested in history. They have a level of consciousness about them. But it's even harder to show people why it matters that we know who we are. Because you have some church folks, they know who we are. You can ask them, okay, who are the children of Israel today? They would say, well, hey, we are. Church people now, people that read their Bible. But to show people the significance of it, why it's important to know that is probably the hardest thing. The hardest thing to show people. And what I believe makes it so hard to show people is the civil rights movement. The civil rights movement, and I really believe Hashatan brought forth that movement. I really believe that was a white horse movement. I'm not saying that that's the totality of the white horse and the rider on the white horse, praise Yahuwah. I'm not saying that's the totality of it, but I believe that's part of it, praise Yahuwah, because this was like a false messianic move, a false redemptive move for the Hebrew people. All of a sudden, here we are rising up as one man and taking our claim to America's promise that all men are created equal and that all men are endowed by their Creator with inalienable rights. And so we rose up in the 1960s to boldly claim those rights and to say, we're not going to be treated like second-class citizens anymore. But we're going to claim our rights as American citizens, created equal, our rights to equality and justice, praise Yah. But see, because we did that, and especially with Martin Luther King Jr. bringing forth his dream on national television. Now, if this was something that the American media was able to really get with and put out there, that ought to be a red flag to you right there. Praise Yah. I mean, suppose there was a big nationally televised event, and then someone got up and started talking about how we're the true children of Israel. And now those people over in the land of Israel are imposters. The media would shut that down with a quickness. But why were they all over King's dream? Why was that something that was widely publicized by television, by magazines, in the American educational system, and people talk about it to this day? Why has that gained so much traction in the United States of America, and not just in the United States of America, but in the world as a whole? Many were inspired by King's dream that one day black boys and girls, white boys and girls, Protestants, Catholics, Jews, and Gentiles, all join hands in singing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank GD Almighty that we are free at last. That was the dream that we would all be able to hold hands and just be equal here in America someday. And so because most of our people, it has been instilled in most of our people, brothers and sisters, that dream has been embedded in our people's hearts. That is the vision that our people have for the future. That is the hope that our people have for the future in the United States of America. It has blinded them to the hope that Yah has for us, which is clearly spelled out by the Hebrew prophets. Praise Yahuwah. We're not asking the way to Zion. We're not asking the way to Zion. Weeping as we go. Our faces toward it. No, we're not at that stage yet, brothers and sisters. Praise Yahuwah. See, there's a reason why Yaakov's trouble is coming upon us all over the world, not just in the United States of America. See, look at the first Exodus. Look at the condition our people were in before Yah began to move in deliverance. We see the hard oppression, and we see how as a result of the hard bondage and hard oppression, our people cried out to Yah. And as our people cried out to Yah, it moved Yah's hand to bring deliverance. Are our people crying out to Yah right now? No, our people, we're not crying out to be delivered from this place. We like this place. We want to stay in this place. Yeah, there's a lot of gripes and complaints and still civil rights issues and all of that. Praise Yahuwah. But the vision our people have is that, hey, we're going to stay in this place. We're going to fight for our rights. We're going to march. We're going to protest. We're going to just make this place a better place for us and our children in the generations to come. See, we have been made to believe that if we march enough, if we protest enough, if we yell out enough, that America someday, some way, is going to bow to our demands. They're going to bow to our demands and just give us what we want someday if we just keep cracking. Just with the marching and the protests and every lawful legal means of lifting up our voice on high and making our case known. Praise Yah. So in that respect, I say that we want to stay here. We want to stay here and try to make this place what it should be, in our people's minds now. Praise Yah. Make America keep her promise. Praise Yah. And it's blinding our people from wanting to go home. It's blinding our people from something much greater. See, a full soul loathes the honeycomb, but to the hungry soul, every bitter thing is sweet. I mean, when you are, it's like fraternity initiation. See, I was in a college fraternity, and it's very similar. Fraternity initiations. You go through your initiation week, and during this week, you're just treated like dirt. You're treated like dirt, and you're disrespected, and they put newspaper on the windows and all that, and they have you and the initiates come in the house and just dog you out, treat you bad, and whatnot. I heard about one fraternity where they would stuff them all in a closet for a long time, and it's all hot and muggy, and people are getting sick and barfing all over one another and whatnot, and just stuff that they would put people through to just dog them out during what they would call Hell Week. That's what a lot of fraternities would do. And then they would bring people just to the height of this, whatever you want to call it. Folly is what it is. Praise Yah. But they would bring people to the height of this hell, quote unquote, that they were putting them through. And it's a very typical scenario. That they would have the initiates and they're all worn down and they're all, what are they going to do next? and they say, we want you to go in that room right now. You go in there, and we're going to have something for you. And they all go in there, and everybody, yay! Yay! Congratulations! Yay! Come here! Yeah! All right! Yay! Yay! And so it's like a psychological thing. Where it's like, wow, okay, we made it, and you're treated like equal, like everybody else. Now you're one of the fraternity brothers, and now the next year, you're on the other side. So go move it, go in there, move it. You're on the other side. Here you were, one of the initiates before. But, see, the idea behind it is, wow, it's so much better to be a full member now than when I was just a pledge. And so, I believe a game has been run on our people where here we were really, look at the 20th century alone. And look at how dogged out we were. Look at the advertisements people had for business, coon chicken. Just all the caricatures and drawings of us with exaggerated big lips, big white eyes. Just making us look so stupid, so foolish, all the folly on TV, step and fetch it. See, people after my generation, they don't know who Step and Fetch It is. People before my generation, they know who Step and Fetch It is. See, he was the first Hebrew man that became a millionaire in Hollywood. Because he'd be making all them yellow balls movies. He was. See, Brother Ed, he knew who Step and Fetch It was. You see. And so just the degradation that we experience. The degradation, the humiliation, and then all of a sudden we have the civil rights movement, and then America presents to us equality. And wow, man, look at this. I'm able to live in the white man's neighborhood. I'm able to get the same jobs as he gets and drive the same cars he drives, and I'm able to, have the same rights and privileges that he has, and, just people smile at me, and, people treat me with respect, and how we're presented equality. And so, of course, being treated like we were treated before, the equality is like a golden egg. To us, wow, sure, I'll take it. Praise Yah, but you know what? That's not what Yah promises us. Praise Yahuwah. See, what Yah promises us is that when He comes and brings redemption, praise Yah, He'll put all the curses that were on us upon our enemies and upon those who hated us. Praise Yahuwah. And those who do want to serve Him and attach themselves to His people, He said, we're going to bring them back to the land as our servants. Praise Yahuwah. The sons of the stranger will be building up our walls for us. These Gentile kings and queens are going to be coming and licking up the dust of our feet. Doesn't sound like equality to me. Praise Yah. But see, our people's eyes are not on that. What I'm just telling you here, our people's eyes are not on those promises. Why? Equality. Hey, equal rights. Wow, look at what we've got. Praise Yah. See, because we were deprived of just basic human dignity, praise Yah, what the enemy did was bring in something that was lesser than what Yah has for us and got us to settle. We don't want to go to Zion. Praise Yah. We don't want to be restored as a nation because we have equality here in the United States of America. We have equal rights, and when we find we don't have equal rights, we can rise up, we can march, we can protest. The media is on our side. Facebook, social media is on our side. Whenever something happens and it's an injustice toward our people, you have people rising up from all nationalities and standing on our side and saying, that's wrong. They should do something about it. And so we have this illusion that we have all this power and all this support here in America. Why do we need Zion? Mm-hmm. What do we need that for? Right. Man, we're going to achieve Martin Luther King's dream here. We're going to have equality. Praise Yah. Do you see why I'm saying I believe this is part of that white horse, that false redemption, that false hope? Praise Yah. And I really do believe that. I really believe that we've been intentionally toyed with by the powers that be. I really believe they had a plan that let's really dog these people out, and then let's just let up and give them a little candy. Give them a little something to smile about. Give them a little something to say, wow, hey, all right, great, praise Yah. Because, see, before the civil rights movement, so-called black nationalistic movements were a lot stronger back then. As far as our people binding together, even some of our people talking about, hey, let's get out of here. Let's go back to Africa. At least having a mind to just bind together and get out of here. Praise Yah. And then, our people, by force, our people were together. Families were together. Businesses, communities. There was much more cohesion back then. Praise Yah. And so really, we were more of a threat to the United States government back when we were in segregation than we are now. We were more of a threat. Why? Because we were more unified. Praise Yahuwah. We were more unified. But see, I really do believe that they intentionally broke that up. Praise Yah. Broke that up and broke up our collective power. Praise Yah. By making us feel like, hey, I'm an American like everybody else. We're all Americans. It's not about skin color. It's about content of character. So that, I'm not going to regard color of skin or anything like that in my dealings with people. I don't want people to regard that with me, so I'm not going to regard that in my dealings with people. So as a result, that we don't support black businesses because, that's regarding skin color. I don't want to do that. You see, we don't want to stay with our own women anymore because, that's regarding skin color. We use that as an excuse. People just lusting is what that is. Praise Yah. But we don't want to be too black because that's against the principles of King's dream. Praise Yah. But brothers and sisters, what the point I really wanted to bring out in this lesson is that we are being shown favor now. Well over and above those that have gone before us. Our grandmothers, great-grandmothers and fathers, great-grandmothers and fathers, and we are being shown favor over and above what they were shown, but it is a false favor. Praise Yahweh. Turn to Wa'ikra 26, Leviticus 26. See, the rug, we're not to put our confidence in this because the rug is about to be pulled out from under us. Just like it did during the Reconstruction time. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I don't have time to go into it right now. Praise Yah. But do some research on the Reconstruction period. The 1860s, 1870s, when our people were freed from slavery and how the Union government and troops came down and forced the Southerners to give us rights, to give us political positions and property. Praise Yah. And how we had somewhat of an equal standing with the Gentiles at that time. And how we were really feeling good about that. It was a whole lot better than our previous condition of slavery. But through politics, the rug was pulled right out from under us. And when the rug was pulled right out from under us, there was a tremendous backlash from the Gentiles. That's when the KKK formed. That's when they started enforcing the black codes and Jim Crow laws. That's when things really got hard for our people in the South after the Reconstruction period. Do some research on the Reconstruction. Praise Yah. See, I believe history repeats itself. That our people were fooled. Our people went for the false favor back in that time and ended up getting the rug pulled from under them. And our people are doing the same in this day and time. We're going for the false favor, And we're about to get the rug pulled out right from under us. Now, Wa'ikra 26, Leviticus 26, we're going to start in verse 38. It says, "And you shall perish among the Gentiles, and the land of your enemies shall eat you up. And those of you who are left rot away in their wickedness in your enemies' lands, and also in their fathers' wickednesses rot away with them. But if they confess their wickedness and the wickedness of their fathers, with their trespass in which they trespassed against me, and that they also have walked contrary to me, and that I also have walked contrary to them, and have brought them into the land of their enemies, if their uncircumcised heart is then humbled, and they accept the punishment of their wickedness, then I shall remember my covenant with Yaakov, and also my covenant with Yitzhak, and also my covenant with Abraham, and remember the land." Praise Yah. So, brothers and sisters, see, one of the things that Yah is waiting for his people to do, not just to confess that we have walked contrary to him, but to also confess that he has walked contrary to us. Praise Yah. But see, what the problem is, brothers and sisters, when Yah walks contrary to us, to his nation of people, here in the United States of America, what do we do about it? Do we humble ourselves and pray, seek his face, turn from our wicked ways? Is that what we're doing as a people here in America? No, we're marching. We're protesting. We're raising our voice. We're creating a firestorm on social media. That's how we respond to Yah walking contrary to us. When we see injustice in the courts, when we see police brutality, when we see our people just mistreated, disrespected, called by proverbs and bywords, praise Yah, that is Yah walking contrary to us. Because we are in an unrepentant state. Praise Yah. But see, we have been fooled, we've been taught that instead of responding to Yah walking contrary to us, like it says here, to confess our sins, the sins of our forefathers, confess we've walked contrary to Yah, and that he's walked contrary to us, and turning from our wickedness, instead of doing that, we're actually fighting against Yah walking contrary to us. Because we don't know what that is. We don't know that that is actually Yah walking contrary to us. Praise Yah, trying to wake us up. And so, what is going to have to take place, brothers and sisters, is that Yah is going to use Yaakov's trouble in order to put us in a position that our forefathers were in Mitzrayim, where things are getting so bad that we cry out to Yah. We cry out for deliverance. Praise Yahuwah. Then he will come. Because when we cry out, I'm talking crying out and repenting now. I'm talking turning from our wickedness, seeking Yah, asking the way to Zion, weeping as we go, our faces toward it, like it says in Yirmiyahu chapter 50, about how the children of Yashra'al and the children of Yahudah will come together in Babylon. Praise Yah. And they will seek to go back to Zion and make an everlasting covenant with Yah. So Yah's going to put us in that type of position, brothers and sisters, because we're too comfortable. In the land of our enemies now, we are too comfortable. Praise Yahuwah. And we've been given this illusion that we have all this power. We have power. We're going to make America bow to our demands for equality. Praise Yahuwah. We got another thing coming, brothers and sisters. Praise Yah. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you something about this power. See, it's false favor. It's false favor because I'm going to tell you something about this power that we think we have in the United States of America. Most of what is called, most of what is regarded as black power in America has been given to us by white people. I want you to meditate on that for a while. Most of what is regarded as black power in America has been given to us by white people. Think about it. NAACP, considered probably the most powerful black organization in the United States of America, founded by whites, founded by white Jews. Even the Nation of Islam, founded by a white man. You see? And it's like we look at these so-called great and powerful, wonderful people that we're supposed to hold in high esteem in America. The heroes that have been given to us. Martin Luther King Jr., Frederick Douglass, and just different people that were given to us as heroes. These were people that were controlled by white people. Mm-hmm. These were people that basically stayed in their place and did what they were supposed to do. That's why Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, that's why they're not given to us as heroes. Praise Yah. That's why that you really have to dig and search in order to really find out some of the significant things that people like that did. And I'm not completely lifting them up because, I mean, they didn't, they didn't bring forth the word of the kingdom. They failed in that regard, but they did have some, pretty powerful things to say to kind of move our people in the right direction. Praise God. But people like that aren't lifted up by the powers that be. But people who did what the powers that be wanted them to do, that's what's lifted up as black heroes. In fact, I would venture to say that black culture altogether has been given to us by white people. I mean, think about it. What do we practice in America as quote-unquote black people? What do we practice that's actually original to our original culture? When you talk about language, foods, just music, whatever, praise Yah, most of what we practice as a people here in America is stuff that we were either taught by the Gentiles. When I say Gentiles, I'm talking about the European slave masters, or picked up in Africa when we went through Africa before we came here to the United States. So most of what we practice is not even original to our culture. Praise Yah. So that's why when people talk about, that somebody, they're not black enough. They're not black enough. Well, what is black? What is black? When you're in high school and you're in social studies class, and they're going around asking people of their nation of origin, and your white counterparts are saying, "Oh, I'm German. Oh, I'm Swedish. Oh, I'm Irish." What do you say? "Oh, I'm black." Where's black? Where's black on the map? Show me where black is. Show me how to get to black. Praise Yahuwah. See, we've lost our identity. And Yah said we would. He said that I will cause the remembrance of them to cease from among men. You know what that means? It means that other nations won't remember who we are, and we won't even remember who we are. That's why we say we black. That's why we may even go further and say we're African Americans. Praise Yahuwah. But where can we go in Africa where we can just call it home? Where we can just squat down, call it home, and everybody just be cool with that? Praise Yah. You got to understand that Africa, even though they're brown-skinned people over in Africa, it's a diversity of people over there, just like it is in Europe. Like that, you can't just be some Italian and then just go squat down in Germany and say, "Hey, this is my country. I'm just going to chill." You're not one of us. They're all white, but they're going to look at that Italian and say, "You're not one of us." I mean, it's okay that you're here, but don't be going around saying you're one of us, because you're not. See, Africa has a diversity of people, just like Europe does. You can't just say, "Oh, okay, I got brown skin. I can go anywhere in Africa and call it home." No, you can't. See, a lot of those people are very tribal, too. Like that, even within one country, if you're not of a certain tribe, you won't be accepted. Like that. Praise Yah. And so, brothers and sisters, that what I just read in Leviticus 26, clearly says we're living in the land of our enemies. Now, Don't let that confuse you. Because when I say we're living in the land of our enemies, am I saying that the average Gentile on the street, the average Gentile that you talk to out here is your enemy and just is actively looking to do you in? No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. Praise Yahuwah. Even if the average Gentile out there is friendly and respectful toward you, you're still living. We are still living in the land of our enemies. You know why? Because the powers that be have not changed even since slave days. These wealthy families, they transfer power down to their children, their grandchildren, and these same wealthy families stay in power generation after generation after generation. Society may change, people may change, but if they don't change, praise Yahuwah, then we're still living in the land of our enemies. Praise Yahuwah, and we're not to get too comfortable with this false favor that we have been shown as a result of the civil rights movement. Now, praise Yahuwah, am I thankful that there has been a let up, praise Yah, from the effect of the curses upon our people here in the United States of America in these modern times? Sure, I'm thankful for it. Praise Yahuwah. That I believe that we as Yah's people, let's use this to our advantage. Let's use this for the economic activity, the economic opportunities, praise Yah, and just opportunities that we have in order to just move this kingdom word further. Praise Yahuwah. Really be used of Yah to accomplish His purposes. So sure, let's use this the best we can while we have it, but at the same time, let's wear this world like a loose garment as well. Praise Yah, because it's all going to shut down someday. The rug is going to be pulled out someday. That's right. Praise Yah. So use it, but don't abuse it. Hallelujah. Now I want to close this out by reading the words of Yahushua. Turn to Matthew 24. Matthew chapter 24. We're talking about false favor. False favor. Some people call it the illusion of inclusion. The illusion of inclusion. Matthew chapter 24. We are going to start in verse 15. It says, so when you see the abomination that lays waste spoken of by Daniel the Nabi put up in the Mikdash, he who reads, let him understand. Then let those who are in Yehuda flee to the mountains. Let him who is on the housetop not come down to take whatever out of his house. And let him who is in the field not turn back to get his garments. And woe to those who are pregnant and to those who are nursing children in those days. And pray that your flight does not take place in winter or on the Shabbat. For there shall be great distress, such as has not been since the beginning of the world until this time, no, nor ever shall be. And if those days were not shortened, no flesh should be saved. But for the sake of the chosen ones, those days shall be shortened. Praise Yahuwah. So if we jump down to verse 29, it says, immediately after the tribulation of those days will the sign of the Son of Man appear. So we know that this is something that has not happened yet. And this is said to be a time of great distress, such as has not been since the beginning of the world until this time, no, nor ever shall be. So what our forefathers went through here in the United States of America, it says we got worse times than that coming. And it's hard to imagine because of this illusion of inclusion, because of this false favor that we're being shown, it's hard to imagine things getting that bad here in America. But Yahushua says that they will. And we need to be prepared for that. Praise Yah. If we jump back to verse 9, it says, then they shall deliver you up to affliction and kill you, and you shall be hated by all nations for my name's sake. Now that we know the Israelite truth, it gives new meaning even to this verse right here. Being hated for all nations for his name's sake. See, we used to think that's just talking about the church. That's just talking about the church. Praise Yahuwah. But see, now that we know this Israelite truth, praise Yahuwah, that, there's something to this being hated of all nations. Praise Yah. Because, see, we're hated of all nations to begin with. Praise Yah. But especially being hated of all nations if we're in the truth, if we've been awakened. Praise Yah. And if we're bringing forth this good news of the kingdom, trying to bring our people out of this wicked system, we will especially be hated of all nations for His name's sake. Praise Yahuwah. And so persecution is coming. Persecution is coming. And as it was, see, we've been reading in the Apocrypha lately. We've been reading in Maccabees. And see, history repeats itself. And that's why we have to know our history and know just what has happened to our people throughout history and how our people have responded to it. When persecution came in those days, that you had your faithful remnant that stood to the Torah and even died for the Torah. But then you had your sellouts. You had your coons. Praise Yah. You had your traitors. You had people that could not bear the heat of persecution, and so they turned to be on the enemy's side. They allowed themselves to be used by our enemies. They delivered their own people up. Praise Yah. As it was then, so it's going to be in our time. Praise Yah. That, it's not just going to be a matter of as far as our people here in the United States of America, that it's not going to be an equal persecution. There are going to be some who sell out that will be treated better, that they won't get it as bad. Mm-hmm. Praise Yah, because they're on the enemy's side. But those of us who are awakened and waking up other people, we're going to catch the greatest persecution. Praise Yah, because we're the ones who Hashatan really wants to stop. Because see, this Besorah, this good news of the kingdom, shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then the end shall come. We're not talking about the Christian churchy gospel. Praise Yah. That's already been preached to the ends of the earth, and the end has not come. So that's not the true gospel. That's not the true Besorah, the true good news. Brothers and sisters, this truth is going to go forth to the ends of the earth. Then the end will come. Praise Yahuwah. Praise Yah. So we're talking about false favor. And I cannot say it enough, brothers and sisters. Do not be fooled. Don't be fooled. Don't you think. Praise Yah. Because we have it so much better than our forefathers here in America that we're inches away from King's dream. We just got to keep fighting. We just got to keep the blood, sweat, and tears flowing, and we're almost there. Maybe we'll get there in the next generation or the generation afterwards, but we're almost there. Praise Yah. Hallelujah. So brothers and sisters, we got to get our eyes off of that mess and get our eyes on Zion. Praise Yahuwah. And realize that Yah has something much greater for us as a people than equality, praise Yah, in a society that has basically become a cesspool. That the blood, sweat, and tears that our forefathers have brought forth, the sacrifices that our forefathers have made for us to be in this society where we have more equality, where we have more rights. Now, we're able to have an equal share in a society where you can send your child to public school and they will read Heather Has Two Mommies. Where they can learn that homosexuality and transgenderism is normal and it's okay. See, this is what we fought to be a part of. Yeah. This is what we had the dogs eat us up and we had the fire hoses blast us over so we could be a part of this cesspool. Oh, well. Because that's what it is. It's a cesspool. Yeah. Praise Yahuwah. This is what we fought so hard to become a part of. Praise Yah. And I hope that this is something that can wake us up. I hope that this is something that can get us to open our eyes and say, wow, we bought the fried ice cream. I mean, we have really been fooled. Praise Yah. So let's put our eyes on Yah now. Let's turn our eyes to Yah. And let's see what promise He has for us. Praise Yah. Let's see what He will do for us if we do what He wants us to do. Praise Yah. Let's get another vision. Let's ditch King's dream and let's get a kingdom vision.
Hallelujah. Brothers and sisters.
Praise Yahuwah. So with that, I will say, Shalom.